In this video, we're going to look at putting together a class diagram, which is, I guess, the structural diagram for our digital solution. So the previous diagrams we've looked at are all examples of behavioral models in the sense of they describe how the system will behave, whereas this diagram will actually outline the structure of our system, in particular the objects within it. So an object is anything that we are either collecting information about or that performs an action within our system. So for this example, we're going to have a look at an example of an online bookstore. And we're going to put together the objects, and then in, I guess, following videos, we will go through the process of normalization. But for now, we'll just stick to, I guess, our first class diagram. So in Star UML, it does by default set it up for a class diagram. But if you've been working on other diagrams, you simply go to Model, Add Diagram, and it is the first one on the list, which is why it defaults to the class diagram. So class diagram is pretty simple. We only need two things to begin with. The first one being the class, so the actual object type that we're going to include, and then associations to create relationships between the objects. So if we select class, we can just click and it'll add. So for our bookstore, obviously we need some books to sell. So the book object is one we would need to include. We'll probably also have a customer object, so the customer that's ordering our books. So the order itself is actually an object as well. All right, and you'll see the key to when we're going through this is all of these objects are nouns. All right, so I guess, a noun is a word in English that represents an object. So it kind of makes sense that those form our objects in here. They're the main three. Probably one more I will add is the publisher, in case we want to order more books into our store. So we've added our objects. The next thing we want to consider are the attributes. So attributes are the bits of data that we may want to collect about these objects. So I've sort of done this in reverse order, but I'll go right to left. So first of all, with our customer, to add an attribute, we want to select the object by clicking and then right click, and we have the option to add, and we can add an attribute, and it'll come up with attribute 1. So I guess we want to know the customer's email address is probably an important one. We can right click and add attribute, or once we've got one in there, we can use the plus button. So I'm going to continue just by adding the plus button. I guess we probably want to know their name. We want to know their address, so for obviously delivering the order. Perhaps a phone number if we need to follow up on anything. Maybe they'll have a password as well to add into some sort of user login type setup. What else could we potentially want? I don't know. We can always come back to it. That's what's great about this, is you can adjust this as we go through the process. With the order, so let's add an attribute. So I guess we want to know the book that we want to order. So the customer that wants to order it, the shipping address, so where we're sending it. We may want to know the quantity as well. So if you want to order more than one book of the same, I suppose that would be an option. I'll just give myself a little bit more space. Probably also, if I can go here, probably want to know the date that the order was placed, so that we can keep a track of how long the order takes. Again, that'll probably do for now. So with the book, I guess some useful things to know is the title, the author, and what else? The price of the book, I suppose, is going to be useful for our order. So I might even add that in here. We do need to know the price of the order. And with the publisher, we probably need to know their name. And maybe an email to reach out to them. That'll probably do for the time being. So we've set up our attributes. The other thing to add is our methods. So if you right click and add, the word method doesn't appear here, but what they use is operation instead of method. It's the same thing. So it's basically the actions that we perform with these objects. So with this one, I guess we want to be able to create an order to obviously make an order. We may want to update the order as well. Oh, hang on, that's attribute. So if you do add an attribute you don't want, you can just delete it. So I want to add a method. So we may want to update the order as well. All right, and I guess, in terms of at our end as the online store, we may also want to finalize the order. So basically, once it's shipped out, we say, that order has been dealt with. So with the customer, we probably want to do a couple of similar sort of things. We obviously want to be able to create a new customer within our system. So basically like registering an account. Attribute, not attribute, having a shocker. Delete. So we may want to update their details. So update customer. And I guess in terms of them accessing the system, we may want to be able to log in the customer into our system. So using that password that we've created. Book. So keep doing attribute. Add an operation. So I guess we want to sort of be able to add books in our system. So create book, and I guess you'll see why I'm using the word create a bit later in the unit. But it's mostly for consistency purposes. But like I said, we'll talk a bit more about the importance of create. We don't really need to update the book. Books don't really change their title or author unless, of course, we make a mistake. Might change the price, but for the purpose of this activity, we'll leave that. And with the publisher, again, we probably need to be able to add the publisher in to the system. Create publisher. All right, so I guess then the last thing is just to sort of put in the associations, so the relationship. So, we've talked about the publisher and the book have a relationship in that we order the book from the publisher. And then the book and the customer both have a relationship with the order. So obviously the customer is ordering a book from us. So pretty simple, lines up like that. We've got ourselves a basic class diagram.